News. From Touba to the world, anytime, anywhere, on any device. Mouridyyah TV, the news bulletin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on Mouridyyah television, the news bulletin starting from the local news. The General Caliph of the Mourids, El-Hajj Sheikh Sidi Mokhtar Mbacké, announced his indignation following the coming out of the book of Professor Omar Sankare. He vigorously condemned those hurtful things he wrote, detrimental to the message of Islam, to the dignity of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and benediction be upon him, and to the Islamic faith. Abdoulaye Senyan.
According to an official communique, the General Caliph says to share the sadness of all the Muslims and expresses his resolution to work with them in defense of Islam and its dignified ideals. He prays Allah to preserve all the Muslims in Senegal against aberrations, bad habits, saying discourteous, disrespectful, or offensive things towards others' religious belief, a source of loss and debasement of peoples and threat for the national concord, stability, and cohesion.
Another local news, the General Caliph of the Baifal community handed over the new residence Sheikhul Kadim opposite the heliport of Touba. The handing over, the acceptance of work done took place in the presence of our reporter, Pape Hassan Diouf.
This residence is not yet at its end, according to the plan of Serigne Mouhamadou Lamine Bara Mbacké. It should be composed of 78 shoots, which should welcome all the guests of the Grand Magal of Touba, and restaurants of 300 places, a residence of the General Caliph, kitchens, and all that is necessary, cold store, a bakery. We have just finished the first part, which was completely funded by the General Caliph of Baifal and those who assist him, among the grandson of Sheikh Ibrahim Fall, namely Serigne Bassirou Fall Al-Quran, Serigne Sheikh Ngunda, the brothers of Serigne Sheikh Jemb Fall, sons of Serigne Modou Mustafa Fall, and sons of Serigne Modou Falilou Fall, namely Serigne Fallou Fall Falilou. This work is wonderful. The General Caliph knows it best, and he pays tribute to you for all that work. But it will always go like that, up to our destination. So he knows well all that is here. We so express to you his agreement. He knows your commitment to work for Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba. Starting with you, Serigne Sheikh Jemb Fall, and your brothers who always follow the way set by Sheikh Ibrahim Fall. They have achieved exceptionally this work.
The Daira of Touba Veneto in Italy donated an ambulance to the General Caliph of the Murid community. The details with Serigne Mansour Seck.
The Daira of Touba Veneto in Italy donated this ambulance to the General Caliph of Mourids, El-Hajj Sheikh Sidi Mokhtar Mbacké. In his turn, the General Caliph put it at the disposal of the medical authorities of the Matlabul Fawzaini Hospital, an act highly appreciated by the director, Mr. Amadou Gueye Diouf. Speaking on behalf of the Daira, the Vice President of the Daira declares that they will spare no effort to satisfy the needs of this holy city as far as health is concerned. The Sub-Prefect of Ndam, in his quality of state representative, urged the Senegalese expatriate to bring in more humanitarian initiatives like these to boost the development of the country. The Sub-Prefect of Ndam, in his quality of state representative, urged the Senegalese expatriates to bring in more humanitarian initiatives like these to boost the development of the country. The project of this hospital came into being in the time of Serigne Saliou Mbacké. Serigne Cheikh Thioro Mbacké reminded us of that. The General Caliph, through the voice of his spokesperson, made recommendation to the authorities to revise upwards the subsidies allocated to the hospital as an operating budget.
To supply the household with sheep for the coming Tabaski, the Senegalese government needs 720,000 sheep for a correct supplying. This is according to the minister in charge of the cattle breeding sector, Madame Aminata Mbengue. Sohna Jara Seck reports on.
The cattle market of Senegal needs 720,000 sheep, of which 300,000 from Mali and Mauritania. That is the number the Senegalese state needs for a correct supplying of the household with sheep. An announcement made by Mrs. Aminata Mbengue during the interministerial meeting dedicated to the preparation of the Eid al-Kabir 2014 celebration edition. Representatives of the cattle breeders, consumers, a financial institute, and state dismemberment were present at the meeting chaired by the Prime Minister Aminata Touré. The state is taking steps starting from counting the national sheep population. We will go to the different districts to notice the availabilities. Within 2 months, we will fill the gap, she said. Mrs. Aminata Mbengue reported that the cattle breeders gave them the formal insurance for a correct supplying of the cattle market. However, Mrs. Jai says to be deeply concerned by the act of violence in some market, what has disheartened some Malian and Mauritanian cattle vendors. She announced measures to improve the situation.
Now let us see what's happening on the international.
This is what voters got in Donetsk city, a closed door at polling stations. And this is what people power looked like at a pro-Russian rally in the very city centre, and it sounds like this. Dozens of separatist militants on trucks, but one truck was different, full of gunmen from Chechnya. What you're about to hear is a startling insight into how involved Russia may be here. These men are not only Chechen, and so Russian citizens, but one said he was a Russian policeman.
The promise just lasted 2 days. After a sudden declaration of martial law on Tuesday, Thailand's military announced a coup d'etat Thursday with an aim of ending the ongoing political turmoil in the country. World leaders were quick to condemn the move. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said there was no justification for the coup and warned of negative implications for the U.S.-Thai relationship, particularly military-related ones. The European Union and neighboring Asian countries spoke out as well. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon voiced deep concerns over the threat to the human rights of the Thai people.
The Secretary General is seriously concerned by the military takeover in Thailand today. He appeals for a prompt return to constitutional, civilian, democratic rule and an all-inclusive dialogue that will pave the way for long-term peace and prosperity in Thailand.
Thursday in Istanbul, tensions running high after last week's mining disaster that killed more than 300 people, and the perception from those there and across the country that the government did not respond adequately. Now, the first protester was killed Thursday after riot police reportedly fired live ammunition into the crowd. He was shot in the head, in fact. And the governor of Istanbul said today's victim died after being hit by a grenade explosion. The violence is expected to worsen with the approach of the anniversary of last year's deadly nationwide anti-government protests. What is happening in Turkey right now?
Okay, thank you very much. That was today's edition. Anytime, anywhere, on any device, on Mouridiyyah TV, from Touba to the world. Bye-bye. See you next week.
News.